Thank you very much, Chairman. Nothing like a challenge. Maybe we talk a little bit about the authority vision very briefly, because we see this country as a global leader in sustainable energy. And if I might make the point, a society that is fully engaged in the sustainable energy agenda, as well as an economy that is working with all these opportunities. And our role is helping transform this country to a society based on these sustainable energy structures. Our priorities start off with energy efficiency, getting strong energy efficiency actions to radically reduce energy intensity. It's not an either-or, though. In parallel with that, we must move forward on many fronts in accelerating and the development and the adoption of the renewables. And while doing both of these, we need to bring together measures so that all the supply chain, the actors, we foster innovation and we develop enterprise. So these three sets of priorities. The context is provided for us in European legislation, the 2020 with which you're familiar. The National Energy Efficiency Action Plan sets out specific measures, something close to 90 measures to be implemented across public, transport, business and residential sectors to deliver savings. But those savings don't go all the way to meeting our national target. There is a gap, and the enhanced set of measures being put together in the National Retrofit Programme serve to close that gap. The Minister made reference to the study that we undertook last year with McKinsey, which looked at the costs of different measures to abate greenhouse gas emissions. And just reiterating this point that even on these rather conservative, behind this curve, for instance, on the y-axis you get the costs, but you notice that something like 40% of them are below the line on an assumed energy price of $60 per barrel. You change that assumption and more things go below the line. So it is entirely appropriate that we put a particular emphasis on this area. And it gives us, I suppose, the justification, if justification we need, for the transformation of the performance of the Irish building stock. In the retrofit programme, let me for the moment, for a minute, make maybe a slightly subtle point, and that is, while in this meeting and in a lot of our programs we talk a lot about improving the buildings, remember actually what we're trying to do is to enable the users of our buildings lead more energy efficient lives. That may seem like a subtlety, but there is a huge amount of evidence that we very much underestimate the behavioural impacts, the need to engage the users in delivering the changes. So that really is quite a priority. The employment is clear. We're talking about the today's 5,000 jobs directly supported by government funding in this, with very considerable opportunities to increase. The energy security argument is clear, and the need for a supply chain which is quality, which is accredited, which with the necessary skills and the new business models needed to deliver this programme. I'm going to show you the programs which we have today, and you'll perhaps better appreciate that there's really quite a powerful argument for a clearer brand which draws these things together and has maybe a stronger focus on the interests of the customer rather than our rather series of events which led to various programs. And the point about financing has been made both by our chairman and by the minister. You'll be hearing later today about particularly the Home Energy Saving Scheme and the Warmer Home Scheme. The Minister referred to the Greener Home Scheme. I'd like to make the point that there are important programmes in the non-domestic sector, some of which are delivering huge results, and there are also a series of measures which go across various activities and help change attitudes to the importance of these measures. But central to bringing these changes about is an industry that is fit for purpose. And it has to be said that we now, of course, have an industry that has been seriously weakened by the recent collapse. From our perspective in the authority, we really do need to see construction recognised as an engine for economic growth with a crucial role to play in Ireland. So what I'm saying to you, I suppose, is that the recovery in the Irish construction industry is essential because the industry has to be in a position to invest in the development of the skills, to invest in innovation and R&D. The principles in the which lie behind the development of the programme is that we build on what we know about consumers. There is steady experience now over 2 or 3 years. There is an emphasis that we deliver solutions which are realistic, but at the same time we help generate an environment in which innovation in technologies, yes, but also innovation in services and in business models are fostered. The thermographic image can be powerful in highlighting to people how leaky their building is in terms of this expensive energy that they're using. But I put in the wind tunnel image also to remind us that there are issues, as the Minister made very clear, at the urban scale as well. In a retrofit, the programme design is one which looks at a mix of obligations on utilities, for instance, and also government funding. A programme which seeks to encourage complete solutions and also development of packages which are ambitious in their scope, which provide deep retrofitting, but also which go towards industrial processes, which scale up the thing. The building energy rating as of central importance, and increasingly, I suspect, our role will be changing in that much of the implementation will be through service providers, but with the necessary overview, ensuring that there is consistent quality and so on. The current status is that at the end of July, the Cabinet agreed a retrofit programme and an indicative multi-annual budget, together with some commitment to staff resources. A period of consultation on the design of the programme ended last week, and there are a series of pilots being implemented, trying a number of the possible options. I'm focusing, and we're focusing today, of course, on the building sector, but I do want to make the point, as I did earlier, that there are a series of measures being brought together here. And an area where we don't always recognise that we also are essentially leading the world in industrial energy efficiency, working with all of these companies and others who together account for about 1 billion of our annual energy bill, and making very substantial savings. So savings which have caught the attention of these many of them multinationals, and so we find that expertise and techniques and methods developed in this country are being exported globally. It's not straightforward. The challenges have already been highlighted. Dealing with the depth, getting solutions which are not just picking the low-hanging fruit, but are transforming the performance of the whole building, and also increasing the scale. 65,000 dwellings improved this year. The challenge of what is about 1.2 million. We have to go beyond things which are focusing on a number of interventions in an individual building, looking to the possibilities of clustering, of tackling things on neighbourhood scale and so on. And some countries, Austria for instance, is looking at industrialising solutions which are applied to the exterior of the entire envelope. Central to the whole thing has to be quality. We really need to establish new standards in Irish construction. And I think many would see it as a particular challenge at the smaller end of the Irish construction industry. But in that report that each of you were handed on your way in this morning, and my colleague Josephine Maguire will be detailing this afternoon, I think it is noteworthy that some 90%, as the Minister said, 90% of those, and it's a big sample, it's 10,000 people responded to this survey, were either satisfied or very satisfied with their contractors. And that is not, I think, always the image that the Irish small contractor enjoys. I think we do need to put some of this evidence out there. In driving quality forward, it is necessary to have appropriate technical standards, codes of practice. There are training needs, and of course, inspection. There is also a need, as you might expect an escaped academic to underline, a need for appropriate research, because these things do need study, and there is a tendency to overlook some of the really quite subtle areas which ensure the delivery of the promised performance. And I did emphasize the behavioural dimensions. And the excellent consumer experience is crucial. Some of the offerings in development, the idea of one-stop shops, of course, packaging the measures, we've talked about this, and looking at the things like Save As You Pay and loans, and you'll be hearing later this morning about energy services companies, and the whole idea of utilities being in the business of delivering energy services rather than flogging power. The opportunities are vast, of course. Just last week we saw the opening of what is billed as the world's first carbon-neutral convention centre, but I put a second image here to illustrate the range, because that's the headquarters of the European Renewable Industries Association in Rue d'Arlon in Brussels. It's a protected structure, a historically sensitive building. It's 100% renewable power. It is these things can be done, but they do represent a very considerable range of opportunities. We're also tending to look at the future in terms of the past. The future is going to be different. We're going to have much smarter systems. As the Minister made the point, Ireland in several ways is leading in this area. The future kind of grid, the idea of consumers who have much better information and control over their use of energy, so empowered, and utilities, which, as I say, are rewarded for delivering energy services. But while imagining this future and setting out to realise it, it is, of course, important to remember that in our pilots, and it would be our common experience, you go into buildings, you go into homes with central heating systems with a single thermostat in the hall and so on, and which the first measure, of course, is to turn off the hall radiator to save energy, and then you're opening the living room window to cool the overheating system, the madness of the information. So there is work to be done. My conclusions: this is an important activity. There is a major opportunity here for construction leadership. It calls for a considerable joined up thinking in construction between the professionals and the contractors and the suppliers and so on, but also, of course, joined up among the agencies and among the government departments. We have got to do this right. We have got to get the standards right. We can't have failures and concerns, for instance, getting, as we go to high standards of performance, issues about indoor air quality, ensuring that we're providing quality interiors and safe environments, really important. There's a lot of work here, and I think, as our chairman made the point, more than most of us imagine. But there are great rewards, and these are legion. They do also, though, include a colleague who'll speak later, Majella Kelleher, working also outside the SEAI timescale in building houses for some of these people with Niall Mellon, and my 3 granddaughters. I leave you with this thought. The IEA calculates that 47 trillion US dollars will be expended on energy technologies in the next 2 or 3 decades. Huge opportunities here. Thank you very much.